And I will, when I say people, I will say people here in this group, the educated middle class group. This is where we found a lot of dissatisfaction. It was surprising, even by the way people we met on the street, not necessarily our hosts and the ones that they arranged for us to meet when we went to different meetings, but also on the street, if somebody spoke English, which meant they were educated, they also expressed freely that they were not happy either with the regime or with the system. And I make a distinction between these two. And we did ask the question clearly, if you are really all not happy like this, so where is this system and regime getting their support? And they explained to us that, as a matter of fact, it is a big portion of the masses, which they estimated to be about 30% of the population, are very committed religious people that adhere so much to the religious institution, which is, I'm going to come back to talk about, it is very impressive what they have there. And they said it is that religious institution and its influence on about 30% of the population who sincerely believe in the system and the regime, sincerely believe in them. We can disagree if we're educated, but they really believe in them. And they will go to every elections, and every single one will vote. So when you have 30% block of population going to vote, versus this population here who will probably follow the normal trend of only 50% who will go to vote or something, you end up still with a winning group here of those who are highly religious, highly committed to the cause of the religious system and a regime like Ahmadinejad. To the point that they said they really don't think that Ahmadinejad will lose next time. With all the dissatisfaction here, they don't think he will lose. Yes? Okay, this, I mean, I would say maybe 20% or so. Remember, I said educated or literate, 90%. But so that's why when I wrote here, I said educated middle class, because I think that's in the range of about maybe 10 to 20%, something like that. Can you speak up a little bit, Marco? Okay, hold on.
I've heard from numerous sources that the president of Iran, Abu Muhammad, he's mostly a figurehead and doesn't really have any political influence on society, and that it's usually the head of the parliament that, or the head of the government that does.
Yeah.
But the way you're speaking, it seems like he has a great influence on it.
Yeah. No, I think here there are two levels. There is the level. No, Ahmadinejad, of course, is strong. I don't think that he is just a figurehead, but above Ahmadinejad, there is usually a religious figure that heads what they call the Supreme Council. And this is a religious figure. And this is the one who really can make the final calls on to go to war, not to go to war, to build the nuclear power or not. It is with that Supreme Council and the head of the Supreme Council who is a member of the religious institution. But Ahmadinejad, of course, he is a president and he is very strong. And he's not popular at all among this group. And I'll be very careful to say among this group, but I cannot speak for the masses.
I think that's actually how he got to power, and Khatami lost the last election because the religious leaders did not approve of Khatami because he was too liberal and wanted somebody with a little bit more, strictness in them. That's how he made it here.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I don't know what to think. Again, I would say that this is one of those trips where I am coming back with more questions. I am not necessarily coming back with answers. Maybe I have more awareness of what's going on. But for example, take safety and security. I just want to say that, okay, oppressive regime, I understand, and it's terrible, bad, and I am not ever going to say that oppressive regime is okay, because I have seen the damage it's doing to people. However, I'll give you another vignette, example of something happened when we were on the street in Tehran. Just to show you, I mean, how there is a government, when they are strict, perhaps they are doing something good. I understand that Ahmadinejad was elected because of the good work he did as a mayor of Tehran. He cleaned the place. The place is safe, and so safe to the point that the second day we arrived to Tehran, in the evening after we finished our meetings, we wanted to go to a bazaar to buy things and just walk around. So we were the 7 of us plus our Iranian hosts, about 4 or 5 of them. And none of us had Iranian money. So the main host, who is Professor Islami, who's coming here in January to teach in human rights, said, okay, guys, if you want to change money, give me money, and I will take it to some place, and I'll change the money and bring it back to you. Now we are standing in the middle of a very crowded corner say like 42nd and Madison in New York or something like, or whatever it's going to be. And or San Jose, like here between Paseo, Colon, or something like near the theater. And the 7 of us, each one of us is taking out $100 and $200, and we are giving it to Islami in his hand in the middle of the street with so many people walking around. And then I noticed that actually some of the people started to look, and they came so naively, just like looking, just what are those guys doing? And they're just looking at us so naively. And that's when we, as a group who lived in the US, stopped for a second and started laughing. That, oh my God, do you realize what we're doing here? I mean, we're giving someone almost over $1,000 in his hand in the street in front of everybody, and we are not afraid. And that was just like really a shock for us to realize how safe this was. Having seen, again, so many women, despite everything they're wearing, but I've seen many of them at night, walking at 10, 11 at night. And you can see they are walking very safely. They're walking slowly, talking on their cell phone, and just walking towards their home or wherever they are. And you can tell there is no sense of fear whatsoever. I don't know what to make of this. Anyway, one more.
I was wondering to ask actually, how about the civil society organization, especially women organization, how functioning they are that protect the rights of the women?
Excellent. Yeah, that was part of what we did, was to meet with different civil society organizations, and including a commission on human rights. Now, that commission on human rights actually was established initially by some funding from the government, but then it was left to be an independent entity. And they have a very nice, very nice offices, excellent equipment. By the way, technology here also is fantastic, and I'll come to that in a second. We sat with the head of that organization and with some of the staff members, and we were, again, very surprised for the arguments that they were making against the system, especially the current regime. Maybe they were careful not to attack the system itself, but the current regime, they were so negative in describing what the current regime is doing on human rights and what a bad record they have. And they said that this regime keeps asking them as a National Commission on Human Rights to do things like to say, look how terrible things happening in the US, or how terrible they're happening in France, or they wanted to use that human rights organization to criticize other governments. But that organization said, no, we are not going to do this. And if we do this, we need to also talk about what's happening here. So in a way, again, I was confused that you can take such a stand against your government, and you are publicly speaking about that with a bunch of foreigners, and you're still going to have your job next day. It's on one hand, they are all talking about oppression, 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 but yet they seem to be comfortable criticizing. And I am not sure. Those lines are confusing to me. Because I guess when I grew up in Egypt, there were times of oppression, political oppression, and we were very afraid to speak. And you only spoke to those you trust and you know very well. But a bunch of foreigners coming for 10 days, you can openly speak to them like this. I don't know how to read that. Women organizations, we also met with some of them. What we found is there is a clear dissatisfaction among women, mainly, again, the educated ones. They really don't appreciate this infringement on their own private life to that extent. And this is very clear. And they wish to see change. I remember in one conference we did in Isfahan to about 200 people from lawyers and law students. And a couple of women just stood up and said, what do you say of the record of human rights abuse to women in Iran? I mean, that was just like a direct question to us like this from some of the women sitting in the group. They seem to be clear about it. They seem to be very focal about it. And then I don't know how many of you are familiar with Iranian movies. I brought some, by the way, and if anyone want to watch them, just let me know. And you look at those Iranian movies, and they are so critical of the religious institution, of political oppression, of gender issues. And the 3 movies I have, you can watch them, and you're going to see very clearly, those are highly critical of the system, and they are threatening things will deteriorate if we don't fix those issues. So again, I would say, obviously, such organizations are not satisfied, and they have issues with the regime, but I think their space of maneuvering is limited. Maybe they can talk to us, but what can they do on the street, for example? We asked that Dr. Islami, who was coming in January, and we said, so what do? Do you actually hold meetings and be critical? And he said, no, I got to be careful.